Today we're talking about Kopi Luwak. It's one of the most expensive coffees you'll see out there. The price is often kind of a big deal. I know there are more expensive coffees, but Kopi Luwak does still technically hold the Guinness World Record for the most expensive coffee. I get a lot of messages about it. Is it worth the money? Is it a good idea? Does it taste better? Do people really drink it? If you're not familiar with Kopi Luwak, here is a quick summary. Kopi Luwak translates from the Indonesian as civet coffee. It's made by collecting the droppings of an Asian palm civet that has been eating coffee cherries, and from its feces you can recover the undigested seeds that you can then clean up, roast, brew, and drink. You'll see it also sold as sometimes ferret coffee or weasel coffee if it comes from neighbouring producing countries in that kind of a region. The marketing story is that there is a kind of novel fermentation that goes on inside the gut of the palm civet that changes the coffee. It ends up producing what's supposed to be a less bitter, smoother, delightful cup of coffee. Is this true? How did anyone even find this out? Would I recommend that you try it? Is it the real deal, or is it just some kind of coffee equivalent of ortolan for the caffeine-hungry fikophile? Have I tried Kopi Luwak? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I might have done, but I don't know. Let me explain. And to do that, we should begin with the origin stories of Kopi Luwak. It's the 19th century. Dutch colonists have come to Indonesia and, seeing the opportunity of cheap land and cheap labour, have forced local people to grow coffee for them. Now, in typical fashion, those people are not allowed to enjoy or consume any of the coffee they're growing. They can't enjoy the fruits of their labours. But a few of them notice that the civets are eating the coffee. And then they notice that the civets are leaving the seeds in their stool intact. And some brave soul decides to kind of wash them off, roast them, grind them, brew them, and declares it to be delicious. And the Dutch, seeing some value that they're not extracting, well, they jump on that and start exporting it too. And that's the beginnings of Kopi Luwak. And this is a story you see repeated in the marketing copy of lots of companies who sell this, kind of with a straight face. It's not a good story. Coffee has a lot of worse stories. There's some terrible stories in coffee's history, but this is not a good one and not really worth celebrating. But that's the origins of Kopi Luwak. Kopi Luwak lives around the fringes of coffee for a while, and then in 2003, Oprah Winfrey brings it to the forefront by brewing some on telly, and then in 2007, there is a film called The Bucket List that really catapults Kopi Luwak into the public conscious.
Kopi Luwak.
I heard about Kopi Luwak pretty early on in my career, and I kind of understood the draw of it. People like to taste disgusting things that are also kind of safe. People like to kind of push their boundaries. So I kind of understood the desire for people to taste something like this, but I don't think people really understood the implications of their interest in it. Now, up until this point, the production of Kopi Luwak had been incredibly small. Estimates were in the kind of low hundreds of kilos per year on the upper end. And suddenly there's this huge demand for it. People are willing to pay very high prices for it, and then no one really knows what it's supposed to taste like. Inevitably, supply is going to find a way to meet that demand, and the first thing to kind of scale up to do it was fraud. Now, this basically meant people were taking low grades of coffee and basically saying, no, this is Kopi Luwak. And you would taste it and you would say, this doesn't taste very nice, and they could kind of wave it away by saying, well, what did you expect? Fraud has happened in coffee over the years in lots of different places. It wasn't uncommon for people to smuggle coffee across borders, let's say from Ecuador to Colombia, because Colombian coffee was able to attain a higher price than Ecuadorian coffee at the time. This was a different kind of fraud, but it led to kind of scientific analysis to kind of understand if there were actual chemical markers to prove that Kopi Luwak was Kopi Luwak. And it turns out there are. You can do kind of assessments of the aromatic compounds and other aspects of the raw coffee and say definitively this is from the gut of an Asian palm civet or it's not. But no one's doing those tests. There's no real incentive to do them for many people. They just want to sell this thing at a premium price, and they don't want to take a chance that what they have isn't the real deal. I think way back in sort of 2005, 2006, someone told me that 4 times more Kopi Luwak was sold than was actually produced. And this was before the bucket list kicked everything off. So I'd imagine that problem is only getting worse. The second aspect of Kopi Luwak production to scale up with demand was caged civet coffee production. Essentially, people would capture wild civets, cage them and force feed them coffee, kind of battery farming Kopi Luwak. I did read one paper that almost proudly stated that over the course of a season of coffee harvest, a single civet could produce 14 kilos of finished product, though I'm pretty sure that someone has found a way to force more coffee cherries into that civet and up the kind of yield from them, which is disgusting. Caged civets suffer in just about every single way. They're living in cramped, dirty cages. They are force-fed a diet of just coffee cherries, which is not healthy for them. It's just a life of cruelty and captivity, and it is awful. You'll see almost all Kopi Luwak sold as wild civet coffee, but you'll realize pretty quickly this simply cannot be the case. And actually back in 2013, the BBC did an undercover investigation into one of the wild producers and indeed found caged civet farming at the heart of it. I don't think this is uncommon. The stakes are too high. There's too much incentive. There's too much money to sort of stop this kind of fraud happening. Now, the original story goes that these wild civets would eat only the ripest coffee cherries. And then once they were in the gut, combined with their kind of diverse diet, you had this really unique fermentation going on. There is some science to support this. There are kind of unique chemical markers around Kopi Luwak. For example, Kopi Luwak seems to have a lower protein content at the end of that kind of process. Some would argue that the proteins get involved in a lot of kind of roasting reactions that lead to some more bitter compounds, and this, they say, is why Kopi Luwak is less bitter. In addition, Kopi Luwak does have less caffeine in it, though it's a pretty small reduction. This is not a natural decaf. Now, all of this cruelty, all of this potential for fraud, all this money, is it really worth it at the end of it? Well, most seasoned coffee tasters who are doing blind tastings of Kopi Luwak generally report that it doesn't taste very good. My own experience? Well, I was told I was tasting Kopi Luwak, and what I tasted was low acidity. It wasn't unusually low in bitterness. It was kind of earthy and a little bit wild, and it was not particularly delicious, and it kind of reminded me of a number of other low-quality coffees that have had similar attributes. Of course, I cannot be 100% certain that what I tasted was actually Kopi Luwak, despite the assurances of everyone around me. So with you knowing now what I know about Kopi Luwak, I hope it makes sense that I would say, please don't drink this coffee. Please don't fund an unnecessary and cruel aspect of the coffee industry. If you've got money to spend and you want to kind of blow someone's mind, there are some really weird and wonderful fermentations that are done in a safe way, that are way more traceable, that are just way more interesting and ultimately enjoyable. Go and pick up an experimental fermentation from one of a host of different roasters who have that amongst their offerings. Now, I have a terrible feeling that someone watching this is going to think, ooh, an issue with transparency. That's a problem that the blockchain could solve. No. You can still submit false, fraudulent information to the blockchain, and all you're doing is writing with a very permanent, very wasteful marker into the ledger. In fact, I'd argue that it would probably enable fraud by giving a kind of veneer of authenticity to fraudulent products. So please, no blockchain. If at the end of all of this you are still desperate to try a gastric fermentation and you want absolute traceability and transparency, then you can take inspiration from a gentleman from Portland, Oregon. Green coffee is pretty widely available. You can pick it up pretty cheaply, and if you can manage to get it down without chewing, then it'll probably survive intact through your own processing. And you'd have to kind of harvest it and wash it and clean it and roast it and brew it, but if that disgusts you, why are you even interested in Kopi Luwak in the first place? To be clear, I'm actually not recommending you eat green coffee. Please don't eat green coffee. I'm just saying someone did that. It's an option, but really just don't. I'm going to wrap it up there. That is my take on Kopi Luwak. It's why I find it so broadly disgusting in kind of every single way. Now I'd like to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Have I put you off it? I hope I haven't made you more curious about it, but let me know if I have. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. But for now, I'll say thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.